Hi. So I keep doing videos because people keep asking me the same things. It's so much easier and simpler to put it in a video than to write it down. So this one I'm going to combine two things because I think they're relevant together. So I want to talk about feeding and I want to talk about parasite control. Right. So dogs, what they are meant to eat and what most of us feed them are polar opposites. In the wild, they're meant to eat majority like a meat-based product, but not just the meat as in the muscle meat, some offal, which is like the liver, the kidneys, not loads though. If you give a whole animal to a wild dog that's used to eating things like that, you'll see them dissect it and choose what they are and aren't going to eat. Generally, they don't eat a lot of the intestines. They might eat some of it. Some of the bits that they eat in the intestines, they're eating the contents. Like in a rabbit, they'll purposely eat just a little bit of vegetation. There might be a little bit of carbs in there, but generally they're eating the meat, the bone, and some of the offal. Then they will scavenge, they'll eat the odd bit of vegetable, green matter, things like that. So really, for us to feed our dogs very well, we would replicate that. Now, in the dog foods that you buy in the shops, in the dry ones that they've made, you can read through packaging. It sounds great. A lot of the stuff sounds really, really good until you start Googling what each thing means in the packaging. And then you actually find out the majority of the stuff, it is the byproduct of it. It's what's left over. It's absolutely crap. There is hardly any decent dog food you can buy anywhere, whether it be dry, whether it be tinned. It's very, very difficult to feed your dog well from a food like that, which is why I feed raw. But then moving on to raw, there is some rubbish raw companies. You get what you pay for. Read about what kind of meat is in there. Look for a company that does human grade. It'll say human grade meat, then they're getting something decent or as decent as we can. Because obviously, even some of our food's crap, the amount of antibiotics and shit we pump into our animals that we eat. But hey ho, just feed the most and the best you can afford, because what you put in your dog shows massively in what you get back out. So I'll give you some reasons now behind. So in a lot of the processed foods, things they use to keep the shelf life longer, the preservatives, the things to make them taste better, the artificial things, lots of them are carcinogenic, which means slowly you're going to give your dog cancer. You can bugger up their liver, their kidneys, their filtration system. And often they have a lot of fillers in there, and the fillers are the floor sweepings of what we don't use in our human food. And what the fillers do is it fill up their stomach, bulk them out, but it actually doesn't give them anything. It's like just eating cardboard, the old sawdust. There's no nutritional value to it whatsoever. So in the raw, you're giving them, first of all, what they're meant to be eating. Second of all, you will see that they poo so much less. And the reason they poo much less than dog food fed dogs is because they're actually using what they're eating. Whereas dog food fed dogs, their body goes, we're not meant to eat this, so we won't use it. We'll just chuck it out in poo. So you have to feed a lot more of processed food than you do raw food to give the dogs the same nutritional value and to keep them happy. So there's a bonus. Less poo, happier bellies. You tend to find much less allergies, issues like that with raw food fed dogs because they're eating real food. So there's not as many things to be allergic to. I mean, all dogs, humans, whatever, can be allergic to real things as well, but you'll find much less allergies when you raw feed. Also, when you raw feed, it goes through the system very quickly. So from mouth to bum, it doesn't take long to digest. Proteins digested very quickly. And what happens is when it digests quickly is if they've scavenged anything outside that they shouldn't do, or things like worm eggs, parasite eggs, they don't have time to hatch into worms. So when they eat them, they come out the other end. The issues you get with dog food fed dogs who are eating a lot of carbohydrates, those foods are processed very slowly through the gut, so it gives eggs time to hatch, which is why generally raw fed dogs that don't eat any of the fillered carbohydrates are not as likely to get worms as dogs that eat a processed diet. So there's a bonus. So not only do you not have to worry about having worms in your house and you getting them from your dog's healthier, because worms are obviously are not good for the animal to have anyway. They can do damage and they can make them quite sick if they get a bad, what we call worm burden, if they get really full with worms. Now, that leads us on to then talking about parasite control. So all puppies are born, or majority of puppies are born with some kind of worms. And the reason they're born is because within the life cycle of the worm, and dogs going back and going back and going back, there's always some kind of, this is technical, don't quote me on this, but there's some kind of remnants of eggs left over that are stored in the liver of the dog and the mummy dog, and when they are pregnant, this somehow transfers through to the puppies. The puppies are born with something, and the life cycle of the worm is it comes through, ends up in the stomach, you know, they cough it up, they eat it down, it's a process. I don't have it in front of me, I can't remember exactly, it's along those lines. But all puppies generally are born with worms, so we have to worm them when they're babies. And we do it every 2 weeks. If it's a breeder, they do it every 2 weeks from the age of 2 weeks to break the cycle. Because when you worm them, when they've got worms, you're just killing what's here in the gut. You're not killing the rest of the cycle and where the eggs are. So you've got to keep doing it every 2 weeks until you've killed off the cycle. So whatever's hatched hasn't had time to lay an egg because it's too immature, until you know they're completely clear. Then going forward after that, you can lessen the chance of your dog getting worms by, first of all, feeding raw. So the eggs, if they do pick any up, go through the system quickly, and you can give natural wormers in their diet that's going to help. So there's companies like Billy No Mates, which is like a herbal one that you put into their food. The ones that I favour, that I use quite a lot, are pumpkin seeds. I add that into their food. You can give them fur in the form of rabbit ears or anything like that. That naturally worms. And this is how in the wild all our animals aren't dying of worm burdening, because they're eating a species appropriate diet that is sorted out to them, so their body can cope if they come across worms. So that's what we're trying to replicate at home, because we've took their natural habitat away from them and how they'd normally eat. So we've got to replicate that to keep them healthy. So you can add things like that in. Other things are like diatomaceous earth you can add into their food, little bits of garlic. There's lots and lots of things. There's a big long list of things that are very easily available for you to find online, so you can have a good look and play about with what you want to use. So that's that side of things. Then most people, and what the vets often will recommend to you, is that you worm every 3 months. Now, if you go down that route of worming every 3 months, if they've got worms, you're going to clear them out. But these wormers often really upset the stomach. They upset the natural flora of everything. They are a pesticide. They do have side effects, whether that be initial that you'll see straight away or a build-up over years and years of using them. So avoid them if you can. And also, they will only kill what's there. So if your dog doesn't have worms, it won't do anything. And next week, your dog could come across some worm eggs and ingest them and have time for them to grow in. And guess what? They'll get worms. It doesn't prevent. So really, the more sensible thing is to be using natural repellents and things in their food that help naturally clear them out. Feed them an appropriate diet that's going to help with that. And then every 6 months, do what's called a worm count. At the moment, I think it's about £15. You can find that online. Just type in worm count for dogs. They send you out a little sample pot. All you do is get some poo, put it back in the pot, post it back, and they will email you out and tell you if you have any worm eggs. If you do have some worm eggs, then you can treat them, and you can choose how you treat them. There's lots and lots of products on the market for worming. You need to do your research when you choose if you're going to use one, what you're going to use, what its reaction rates are like, how strong they are. Always use the mildest one you can get away with. Same with lungworm. You can't prevent it. When the vet gets you, you know, they'll scaremonger you into it, saying, no, there's been some in the area. There maybe has been some in the area, but same again, anything you give your dog only works there and then when you take it. So I don't treat for that. And the way I look out for that is if anybody gets a cough, I'll be like, oh, they've coughed. Are they coughing for a reason? You know, is there something else? I need to be worried if this cough goes on a day or so, nobody else is coughing, it's not kennel cough. Then I'll think, just might treat you. And if I'm going to treat for lungworm, the mildest one that I can find that I can get is Milbamax. And in the last 2 years, I've only ever treated once, and it was only a couple of dogs. Other than that, we don't treat. Same for fleas. Now, fleas, you can't prevent. Even the tablets, like the NexGard, things like that, the vet will give to you. The reason why they keep it down, dampen, looks like it's preventing, is when you take one of these NexGard tablets or Bravecto, or they're all in the same drug, they're just a different brand name. The way it works is your dog eats it, and it circulates around the blood. So then a flea will come along, or a tick or anything like that. It will jump on, it'll bite them, and then it'll ingest what's going through your dog's blood, and then it frazzles the brain of the flea or the tick and makes them die and fall off, so they don't have time to reproduce. So it doesn't stop them getting them, it stops them getting a lot of them, and it kills them off once they're on them. So that's how they work, which is handy. Keeps our house nice and clean, but think about what it's doing to your dog. Anything else, like your spot-ons and stuff, they're very short acting, but they don't really prevent. Like I say, same again, they just kill what gets on them. So it doesn't prevent them getting fleas, it prevents them getting an infestation. So why not do it a better way? Why not use natural repellents for the fleas, and take note of your dog or your cat or whatever, go through their fur every couple of days, check them over, make sure they're clear, make sure they don't have any fleas. If you do see something, try your natural stuff, or you can go down the milder versions of the spot-ons. I personally try and stay away from that, but I'm not going to judge you if you do get them. But please don't use them when they don't have anything, because all you're doing is poisoning your animal when there's not a need for it. So then please don't join all these things your vets will give you. Eat your £15 a month, and we'll see them every 6 months for a general check over, and we'll give you your flea stuff every month, and we'll give you your worm stuff every 3 months, because all of this is them just helping you poison your animal. Yes, you are keeping everything dampened down, but you're putting a lot of shit in your dog that is going to cause long-term problems. Years ago, when we weren't doing this for our dogs, I mean, even when I was a kid, you didn't vaccinate them at all, you didn't flea them, you didn't worm them, you didn't do anything. And do you know what? Some of our dogs, it wasn't unusual to get to the age of 20. Now we celebrate getting to age 8, getting to age 10. They don't live as long because we're filling them full of crap, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't treat worms, we shouldn't treat fleas, or we shouldn't vaccinate. We should just do it to the minimum and do it sensibly in a way that our dogs stay as healthy as possible and without infecting us as well, because obviously these things can infect us as humans. So please do your research. Don't have me, the vet, or anybody else tell you what to do, but I will tell you what I think you should do and why. And go away and do your own research and do what you decide works for you. But I promise you, anything I tell you gives me no financial gain. Anything your vet tells you gives them financial gain. I'm telling you because I care about what happens to your pets. I hope it helps. Thank you. Bye-bye.